Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rusty Beauties channel. We're restoring the 1966 GT6, as you may know lately. We restore many cars, but right now we are on the GT6 subject. So what we've done last time was we fitted the seal, we fitted the new fender, we fitted the door, and we installed the bottom of the door, the bottom of the frame or the door base, let's say. And we fitted it pretty well. So today, I think, since it is pretty late, it's like 8:30 p.m. So I came for a power hour in the garage. So I think I'm gonna just take the door out and weld the bottom of the door in place and grind it, and probably that's gonna be the whole task for today. If we even finish it, we'll see about that. I'm not gonna set a timer because apparently last time I set a timer on many of your Alexas, so I'm not gonna do that this time. I'm just gonna say, Alexa, make sure I'm subscribed to Elin.yakov's Rusty Beauties on YouTube. Alright, just a quick look at the whole picture here again. So we made sure that we have a pretty decent gap here on the side. We still have to work in this area on the gap, but we're gonna do that once everything is welded in place. We also made sure that the flange is a little bit further in than the outer seal to allow for another layer of metal that is gonna come there when we put the skin on. And we also have to work a little bit on the gap here, but I think we are pretty good. For the last video I didn't have a good shot for my thumbnail, so I came back to the garage at some point and I closed the bonnet so I can take a picture of the car, and I didn't realize that I had clicos there. And now the two clicos, I pressed them down with the bonnet, so I'm gonna open it and see if I damage them or not. But anyways, let's take the door out and start welding it because we don't have much time. So let's get crack-a-lacking. Alright, so like we mentioned in the previous episode, we have to make some relief cuts here because now the two pieces of metal are making this bump in the middle, and I don't want it. Okay, that's better. So now we can clamp it and start tacking it in both sides of the clamp, then move the clamp, tack it again, etc, etc. I'm not gonna hold you here. It's not a great fun to sit and watch somebody welding and grinding, but maybe I could turn the time-lapse mode on. Okay, so that's everything that I could do in 1 hour. So we're gonna stop here for tonight, and tomorrow I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna grind it. But I think we did a good job. So power hour is over. Okay, it's ground down and it's not the best, but it's not bad either. I think it is pretty good actually. So it kept the shape as much as we could. There's a little bit of body filler required. I couldn't make it seamless as usual, nothing new, but I think it's pretty good. I also welded here, so we can put the skin on at some point. For now though, we have to fit it again and make sure that nothing moved, nothing twisted, but I think it is pretty good. There's no lump in the middle. The flange is pretty straight. So anyways, we still have to fit it though and make sure that it still fits. Then we're gonna take care of the flange. We're gonna grind it down to the shape that we want, and then we're gonna be able to make the skin. For the skin though, I think I'm not gonna be able to make a butt weld because already the skin, look, it is all wavy. I can't make it straight, so I'm gonna have to make a jog weld here, but that's fine. I mean, it's gonna be safer because jog weld has some structure to it because of its three-dimensionality. So that's what we're gonna do. That's gonna happen tomorrow though, because I am already 2 hours here, even though I came for 1 hour in the garage as usual. So tomorrow we're gonna fit it on the car and we're gonna do all these good things that I just mentioned. So for now, time for a beer. All right, so it's another day and I put the door in place, and to be honest, I'm surprised that it didn't move at all. Like, it's still where we wanted it to be. So I'm really happy. Now here, this gap is too big, and here this gap is too small in some areas. So that's the next thing that we're gonna have to deal with. I'm gonna take the door off again, and I'm gonna add a piece here to make this a little bit longer, and we're gonna extend this as well. We're gonna make it a little bit longer because I don't want to play with the seal if I can play with the door, because the seal lines up nicely with the fender, so we don't need to cut it and we don't need to do any tricks there. We're just gonna make the door follow the shape of the seal. All right, so here we need to actually cut a little bit more of the skin, which definitely means that this is not going to be the original shape of the door, but I need to start from a little bit higher. Maybe from here I need to add and come back to here, and that works well for my plan for later, because I'm not going to be able to make the skin in one piece because of the curves. I can use the shrinker stretcher to make the curve here only on a short piece of metal. If it is that long, I'm not going to be able to bend it. Anyways, that's something to talk about later. So yeah, let me cut a little bit higher, and then we're gonna start adding here. I don't think I'm gonna add metal. I'm gonna add a little bit of welding. I'll show you how. Okay, that looks better. I'm still gonna shape it a little bit. Here in this area the corner is too close, but we added just enough. Here this looks better. So again, we're gonna have to shape it now. But first I'm gonna cut the skin higher here because there's a repair there too. Turns out that the skin wasn't wrapped around the base perfectly, because you see there was a little bit of a difference here, which actually is what we should have done down there. But no, that's a curve. I prefer to have something solid inside. That's how we're gonna leave it here. So I'm gonna grind a little bit now here to bring this curve to a good shape that I'm happy with. I'm gonna grind this one as well, and then we're gonna start building the skin. So for the skin, I think we're gonna make one piece for there, just a tiny strip, another tiny strip up there to somewhere, and then we're gonna have another piece for the whole entire bottom, because I can't make this wide piece of metal with round edges with a flange, because shrinker stretcher won't work that way. So if I want to make a piece like that, I'm gonna have to weld the flange in the corners, but I don't want to weld it because I'm gonna have to bend it after, and no, we're gonna make it in 3 pieces. Okay, I think we have a pretty decent gap now, so we're gonna start making those strips that we said. Okay, so this is what I made here, because in this area here in the middle the flange needs to be wider, so I could have just made a wide flange and then trim it, but the problem is that I can't bend it here and here if it is that wide, because I need to bend the flange here, and then I need to start shrinking here so I can bend it. So that's why I made it wide only in the middle, because here we don't need to shrink anything. This is pretty much straight, and here where we need to shrink and here I made it narrower so we can actually do that. So let's make the flange, and then we're gonna start with the shrinker stretcher, giving it the shape that we want. So we just need a short flange and maybe a little bit longer, something like that. Watch your feet. That should be enough to cover it there. So now we need to start shrinking right here. That's not a good idea though, because we're making wrinkles here. Okay, let's see what's gonna happen, but actually starts to take shape. Actually it's pretty good. So now we have to also give it this shape here for this curve. So now we have to shrink this flange a little before we keep going down, but this has a direction, so it is something like that, in this direction. Wow. Now this is going to be tricky to shrink because it's curved, but we're going to figure it out. Now the bend is going perpendicular to this flange, but we want it to come this way, so I'm gonna do that on the vise. Okay, so now the bend follows pretty much our line here. Okay, that's actually pretty good. So now we're gonna have to keep bending here to make this curve. So this curve is gonna need to match this curve. And then we're gonna start bending this at the bottom. So it looks like we're gonna have to shape this a little bit more. Something like that. So we can actually put it in the jaws here and shrink it to make this curve at the end. Okay, I'm going a little bit at a time with this shape and a little bit at a time with this shape to make sure that it fits. So now I'm gonna add a little bit more to this curve. Like this. There you go. Now I have to bring this in more. So now we have to open a little bit here to allow it to come forward because we shrunk it too much. So I have to stretch a little bit here. Okay. Now it made this gap to here good, but now it doesn't match here, so we need to shrink right here. Okay, I think that's pretty good here. We're gonna have to cut this metal a little bit higher or cut this shorter so they don't overlap. And this gap will be pretty good all the way to here. Just here at the end, we need to raise this end a little bit more to make this gap good. So we need to shrink a little bit more here. Okay, I think that's good. And now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this metal is very chewed here, but don't worry. We're gonna get rid of most of it. We're gonna trim it now a little bit deeper, and we're gonna weld a patch here. So we need a patch for this hole here. We're gonna make it bigger, of course, and it needs to continue this line like this and vertical, and we're gonna cut a piece from here. But first, let's see how much of it we can flatten. And to flatten it, we're gonna use my new tool. It's not new, I bought it like a month ago probably, but I never had a chance to use it in video. So now this is my new planishing hammer. So let's see if we can flatten some of this, and then whatever we can't, we're gonna just cut it off. So noise alert. I can't make it flatter than that, and here the metal is even overlapping over itself. There was a crack, so anyways, we're gonna have to cut it probably here, something like that. At least we will need to cut. The rest is gonna flatten here, that's not a problem. And then we're gonna make a patch with this shape from here, like this, like this, like this, and we're gonna weld it on the bench. Of course, if we cut this first, this shape here, we're gonna lose it. This is gonna become really wonky. That's why we're gonna weld the patch here. We're gonna tack it in a few places, and then we're gonna start cutting one tack at a time and going through. It's gonna be really tricky here on the curve. That's why maybe, you know what, we're gonna make it square like this and like this, because it's gonna be easy to cut. So yeah, I tested it again after I planished it, and it moved a little because when we planished all this away, it opened. So I had to shrink a little bit more here, but again, I brought it back to shape, and now I think we are perfect here. Now the only problem is here at the top, the metal overlaps, so I don't want it to overlap. I want to cut it so we can adjust this gap perfectly, and then we're gonna go from there. So we're gonna have to cut, I'm gonna cut the top metal, but to know exactly where to cut it, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna extend this line here, and now when I put this where I want it, I'm just gonna connect this line again, and that's where I want to cut it. Okay. That's better. So we have a perfect gap here, and I'm happy with the gap on the bottom. So that's my patch for now. So now let me do this trick here. Okay, so this is the patch that I made. I'm gonna clamp it like this. Now I can tack it here and here, and then we can start cutting. The shape of this corner is not gonna change. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. So let's test it on the car before we weld it completely. Look at that. It still fits. Here it sticks out a little bit. So maybe if I can stretch this flange. Yeah, I think that's really good. So let's weld it and grind it. actually happy with this. Now we can do the same thing. Hey, so now we can do the same thing. We can tuck it here, we can tuck it here, and then cut the lines and remove the metal from behind and weld it completely. But before we do that, of course, we're gonna primer everything inside and inside here, and only then we're gonna do that. Okay, it's primered, and I made another flange here to make this patch for the front now, so let's do that. I think it's not bad. I'm just gonna grind a little bit more here to be able to bring it this way, because now it is hitting somewhere here. I want it to come just a tiny bit more this way, but other than that, actually that's how I like it better. So we might shorten the top end and see if we can bring it more this way. Okay, that's better. Now this opens a little bit when I push it that way, so we need to close it a little bit, very little. Okay, so that's perfect. We can weld it here and it matches here, so that's it. Now we can do the same thing as we did on the other one. We can weld a patch here to make it square and get rid of all these wrinkles and make it nice and smooth. So let's do that. Well, your battery died at some point, so I guess you didn't see me grinding all of it. But yeah, that's the final result, and it still fits. So we can prime the back of it too and weld them both in place, and then what's gonna be left is gonna be only the part in the center here, which is pretty straightforward. But that's gonna happen in the next episode. Yeah, we're gonna do that in the next episode, guys, because this one is becoming too long, and as usual, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know that some of you say that the longer the better, but I know that there are many others who say, well, this video is way too long, I don't even want to start watching it because it's gonna take forever. That's me too. If I see 1 hour long video and I'm like, eh. But I watch them anyways. For example, Fitz's videos are very long, but I try to find time to watch them because they're very, very useful. But in general, 20 to 30 minutes videos are what I like, and I'm assuming that there are many people like me. So anyways, that's my choice. Anyways, so we're gonna paint this as well at the back, and in the next video we're gonna weld them, and we're gonna make the bottom the center strip, and we're gonna be pretty much ready with the door. And then we're gonna be pretty much ready with this side. Well, we still have to do the bonnet, we still have to do the brackets there, but we're gonna be able to take a picture of a complete side. You know what I mean? Anyways, so once again, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting and subscribing. Don't forget that the Facebook group called Rusty Beauties is open and available for everybody to join. We already have more than 700 members, which is great. I don't have much time for it, but when I go there and I see other people's projects, and many of them say that one way or another I had an influence on their project, whether people learned something from my videos or they just got inspired by my videos and went and got a project. Anyways, it's amazing. Anyways, if you're on Facebook, just go in groups, search for Rusty Beauties, and you're gonna find us. Join us, it's free, and you're gonna find entertainment there. I'd like also to thank you for supporting me on Patreon. Every week the list here becomes longer and longer. Thank you so much for that, guys. I really appreciate it. So if you're not a Patreon yet and you wish to become one, you can go and click on the link. You can click on the link in the description down below, and that's gonna take you to the Patreon page, and you can choose one of 3 options to support the channel financially. But if you would like to do so just one-time donation, that's possible too. You can send a PayPal transfer to elin.yakov @rustybeauties.com, or if you're in Canada, you can send e-transfer to that same email address, and that's gonna help me keep doing what I'm doing here and uploading videos, if not twice a week, at least once. But if you can't afford it or you don't feel like it, you don't need to do that. You have access to all the videos, and nothing is gonna be limited for you. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye. Bye.